update. Here's what you need to know. On Monday, an agreement was announced to put together Warner Brothers Entertainment and Discovery Home. Just to put things in perspective, that was a $43 billion merger. Warner Brothers Entertainment is not to be confused with Warner Media, which is basically AT&T. Speaking of AT&T, as we've seen with earlier news reports, AT&T is doubling down with their HBO Max streaming service and their new acquisitions or partnership with Paramount to gain more market share. Now going full circle to our main headline news, we have new updates on the Amazon MGM saga. After Monday's explosive news rekindled long-term attempts for MGM to try to sell themselves to anyone, the news broke Monday that Amazon was interested. On Friday, we got an update that Amazon is offering $9 billion to buy out MGM's over 4,000 titles, 17,000 hours of TV, as well as the Epic Pay TV network. The most recent news confirms that the earlier rumors are true. Most importantly, Dateline is reporting that the entire 2021 theatrical slate is safe from going over to Amazon. This includes, which is going to be a big hit, the new James Bond film No Time to Die, which comes out October 8th. Dateline further reports that the producers have already determined that there will be no deal for No Time to Die to be streamed as a simultaneously day one release. Dateline further goes on to say it's apparently because they offered Apple and Netflix and Amazon a chance for a one-year license of the new James Bond film for $600 million, and apparently nobody wanted to pay more than $300 million for it. So what does that mean for us, AMC shareholders? Well, for those that may not know, a company is basically the sum of how much money it can make, how much money it has, and how much money it owes. And that first variable, how much money it can make, determines the hype factor or the multiplier of the stock, generally. Although if you're Tesla and Elon, you could sell a turd, and as long as you tweet about it, you can create a multinational overnight. With all that said, and bringing it back to AMC, AMC primarily drives its revenue from selling concessions, food, pizza, popcorn, and whatever that nacho stuff's made out of, plastic, orange, and possibly cheese, and the money they make on ticket sale revenue. Ticket sale revenue, however, is offsetted because they have to rent or license the films that they're going to play. So in essence, I don't know if that still holds up now, they would go and get the movie film from the movie company and they would buy a window, like a week or two or a weekend, which they would play it. And then they would pay them, let's say, $100 million for that week license to play it. And then they would try to make all their revenue as much as possible while, the iron is hot. As we heard in the last earnings call, this might have changed now with the pandemic. And it sounds like they're going to go with a pay-as-you-go model, or you give us the film for free or relatively cheap, and then we pay you a portion of the ticket sales, versus we use the ticket sales to recoup, buying the movie from you. And if it does really good, we just extend that license. So I don't know if that still holds up, but keep in mind between food and ticket sales, whichever way it's playing out now, that's how we make our money. So putting two and two together, if we don't have movies because they won't give it to us or they're giving it to their streaming service and cutting us out of the loop, AMC and other movie theaters that usually distribute their movies and take a profit for showing them in an auditorium-like setting no longer has the in-demand content that everyone wants to see. And what's a movie theater without movies, right? Now, of course, the movie theater could rebrand itself and go back to the old-timey ways where they used to show news clips and they would run a constant stream of loose films and collected reels. But that's outside of the scope of the now and outside of the scope of this news. So the key takeaway is that even if MGM does get bought by Amazon, and MGM's been trying for a while to get sold, we're still going to get our 2021 release from them. And when this sets a precedence with arguably the largest streaming service outside of Apple and Netflix, it's in no way new. There's HBO Max, there's Peacock, there's a whole list, oh, Hulu, of streaming services. But the takeaway and the threat is that now, as movie companies are starting to see that there's a risk to distribute in a pandemic environment, or the marketplace has changed and now they want to go back to the good old days of home theater and sending VHSs and DVDs. But in this case, now it would be streaming form of clicking a button through a streaming service, or the continuous pay as you go, pay per view model, which Apple recently has doubled down on. And if I remember my American television history, was pioneered by HBO. Now, if you remember the previous earning call, our silverback in chief, A.A. Aaron, talked in length about this threat, and he says that he doesn't foresee that digital distribution or streaming will be the death of theaters. Now, obviously, he has to say that, but two, you can't replicate the theater experience. Food aside and, environment, not many people can put a, what is that, 12-story screen on the side of their house, let alone pay for the projector and the lighting and the seating. So just like McDonald's is a convenient way to eat food for a arguably exorbitant price for a hamburger that you could cook at home, a theater occupies that same kind of space where, yeah, you could have built a giant ass theater at home, but for $16, you can watch it in the best possible experience, make a mess of it, and then go home and, I guess, lament about how you don't have a giant theater attached to the side of your house because your wife won't let you do it. And, it's such a good idea. And I don't know why she won't let you do it. But those that have been in this game for a while, for a fact, just because something isn't doesn't mean it can't and doesn't mean it won't. And we know that CEOs have to say what they have to say. And I agree with the same sentiment. I think theaters play a pivotal role in the distribution schedules and the release worldwide and attaining a larger audience than can be afforded by streaming. And in countries where internet is not prevalent or there's a strong sense of community, streaming doesn't provide that. And yes, streaming opens up low cost for poor regions, but they have to have a good enough service to get good enough quality. And 4K is out of the reach of, I don't know, millions and millions of subscribers, right? So they would have to buffer that movie. It's not the same. It just doesn't work. So perhaps in the future, the landscape will change and theaters will be under threat. But as shareholders, unless you're a very, very long-term shareholder, we're talking further than December of this year, it's not something you really need to worry about. So the threat here is that MGM, which is in talks to being sold, would release its schedule directly to streaming, cutting out all these big blockbusters, which, going back just a few minutes, right? If we don't have the films that people want to watch, it means we don't get the money. So that means our share price goes down because if we're unable to make revenue, future profit, or what we factored in for the schedule for this year doesn't happen, then we've reduced the amount of money we can make this year because AMC can't per se make money from doing nothing, right? They can't produce their own content. Well, they could, but they don't produce their own content. They're not making something. They've now tried to rent out theaters, which has been a big success. They've tried better menus and more convenient entrances and buying of tickets and all that sort of stuff. And that's been successful as well. But ultimately, a theater needs movies. If it doesn't have it, it's just a place where you go to get concession food and I guess sit in big comfy seats and stare at a blank screen. So to wrap this all up, we're going to be following it as it develops. MGM is only $9 billion. It's not that big of a player, but it does have a huge repertoire of historical films. It was an incredible company for the time. So to wrap this all up for you, the shareholders, nothing to really worry about now. be careful because there might be a precedence being set here. We'll see how this develops. If Amazon does eat MGM, they may try to eat another company, and other streaming services may try to eat other companies to boost their library with nostalgia or the latest and greatest films, which they may then try to deny theaters from showing. And that's the big risk. Iran says it's not happening. They've negotiated deals, but that may not last forever. So we're going to keep an eye on this, and it's bound to show up in future AMC updates. I hope this was helpful. This is important news. You can read more about it on Deadline. They have a nice article, and we're just going to watch this going forward. On a stock market note, I looked back and Monday didn't show any reaction to this. So it looks like the midweek pushdown was pretty much only the market. So it looks like whoever's trading AMC, which is mostly retail investors, but the small fraction that are institutionals, they didn't seem to care. They don't see this as a threat. There's no reaction, right? So that's good news, but not expected. If 80% of the stock is, crayon eating apes that may not even know this news happened, then they're not going to react to it. And if they don't know if it's bad or good, they may not react to it, right? Where institutionals would know better and they would take a more serious approach. But I think that damage was already done a while ago. I think when streaming started to get big, when Netflix started to get big, that was the death bell for AMC. And realistically, yeah, AMC is not going to be as big as it was because now people have other options. But realistically, piracy killed the theater way before, home video way before, right? And AMC and other theater companies have survived every single challenge up to this point. So, is streaming going to kill theaters? We don't know. But I think if AMC can continue to position themselves as a channel that generates a lot of money, and as long as people keep going to theaters, then it will be a way for theater companies, movie production companies to be exact, to make their most money. But we'll see how it goes forward, right? So that concludes the first AMC update. Thank you all who listened to my wonderful voice for the last 13 minutes. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'm going to try to make a little bit more of these little clips so that we can help educate the masses and kind of deal with some of that FUD, panic, fear, and worry on this, in my opinion, an absolutely wonderful value stock. I'm still betting on 30 by December. You heard it here first. All right, see ya.